Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Happy Hasbro Tuesday. So today we are currently on the 9th series of Hasbro. This is the second release back in 1994. So this is the third to last release of the series. Now, Series 9 was a little bit different than what we've been getting in the past few series. So technically, Series 9 was basically just five characters released in Series 9. Now, when you kind of look at the previous three series, Series 6, 7, and 8, they had been coming out with six characters, six figures, six releases in those series, right? So, coming out with five characters in Series 9, it was an abbreviated series. So, how do you fix a series that is, at that point, the smallest release than any other series? You have to make it a little bit larger. You have to make it a little bit more even with all of the other series. You have to find some way to kind of create a bigger release. So, you have to add at least one more character. And in this instance, all they did was add a figure that had already been previously released. And so that's where you get Tatanka. And what sucks about Tatanka is it wasn't even a repaint. Literally the exact same figure, no change in fighting pose, no change in color scheme. The exact figure you got from Series 6 re-released on purple card in Series 9, and that really sucked. But kind of like what I talked about back in Series 6, I understand kind of using Tatanka as one of those options in Series 9 because you did get your third release of $1 Million Man in the series. And Tatanka was a member of the $1 Million Corporation during the release of this series. So it kind of makes sense a little bit. I mean, you did get Bam Bam Bigelow, for instance, in Series 8, a member of the $1 Million Corporation. So, I mean, you couldn't really use him, right? But having Tatanka kind of turn on his tag team partner Lex Luger, join forces with $1 Million Man, it made sense. But I would have loved to have seen somebody different and either a new character, and at the very least, if they were gonna use someone that was previously created, Mr. Perfect in Series 3 with yellow, re-released in Series 8 with blue, right? Undertaker with red hair in Series 4, changed up with black hair in Series 8. At least it's a slight modification, but using the exact figure, I don't like that. Now, when it comes to my loose figures, I don't display Tatanka with Series 9. I just keep it with five figures on my loose display shelf. But of course, when I have my mint on card collection, of course I'm going to get Tatanka on purple card because it's part of the mint on card collection, right? So we are going to look at all of the mint on card figures today, as well as their loose counterparts. And we are going to start with what I deem possibly the highlight piece of the Series 9 collection, and that is going to be Rick Steiner. And Rick Steiner comes with the Steiner Slam. So there are certain characters that I deem as WCW characters. Like, I still kind of look at Ric Flair as a WCW character. I look at the Nasty Boys as WCW characters. I look at Legion of Doom as WCW. I look at the Steiner Brothers as WCW. Because when I initially discovered these particular wrestlers, yeah, I saw them on WCW. Now, I didn't grow up watching WCW. Now, flipping through the channels, I think they came on like TNT or something. You'd stop for like a moment and kind of watch it for a little bit, but I never sat there and like watched full on episodes or anything like that. And when they came to WWF, yeah, it was nice to kind of see them, make more of an impact. But they will always be WCW characters in my opinion, in my sight, right? So You see guys like Sid Vicious, aka Sid Justice, Ric Flair, the Steiners, Nasty Boys. Actually, let me backtrack. Sid Vicious, Ric Flair, the Steiners, seeing those guys with 1990 action figures with WCW Galoob, and then later on see them also get WWF Hasbro figures, that's pretty awesome. Now, when you look at the 1994 Hasbro figures from Series 9, some people might argue that the Series 9 $1 Million Man might be the highlight piece of this particular collection. And you know what? They might be correct. But whether you're more of a fan of the $1 Million Man in this collection or a fan of Rick Steiner, either way, they're both highlight pieces. They're both the top dollar action figures. So I guess I like Rick Steiner for a couple of different reasons. One, the singlet color scheme obviously looks pretty spectacular. I mean his I guess I like the fighting pose a little bit better as well, right? So I mean, good guy. Maybe that has something to do with it. Probably not, because $1 Million Man, in my opinion, is one of my top 10 all time favorite wrestlers. Period. So I just really think that Rick Steiner is just a maybe not a top 10 Hasbro. It was really hard keeping him off the top 10 list, but Hasbro, some of the greatest action figures ever made. So I would say top 20 ish, perfect figure. If you get the Steiner brothers together as a tag team set, most people are going to run up the price. You're probably looking at anywhere between $50 to $100 for a tag team set. I've seen people on eBay put them up for like $125. I don't know if anyone's actually making a sale on those type of prices. I myself, when I sold the pair together, like I said, I got about 45, $50, something like that for the pair. And I think the last time I sold them was probably early to mid 2024. So, I mean, I don't exactly have Rick Steiner all the time to sell. There was one point, I think in 2023, where I had like every single Hasbro tag team member, and not even not talking about the tag team figures that came in tag team sets, but like Head Shrinkers were in single card, Steiner Brothers were in single card, Series 10 Bushwhackers were in single card, Natural Disaster single card, right? And I had all of these tag teams, and I had them all in one bundle, and I had them for a fair price, like $400, which for all of those tag teams together is a remarkable price. And that thing just did not sell. Eventually, I had that up for like a year plus. Eventually, I had to break up the bundle and sell them as individual tag teams. But Rick Steiner, awesome piece. I was going through one of the magazines the other day, and I think it was like October of 1993. And I don't know, that was probably not too long after WrestleMania, because I think they had just won the tag team championship, the Steiner brothers. So it was outdoors. So I'm thinking Caesar's Palace. I mean, that's like what, Nevada? So definitely one of the more expensive Hasbro figures individually. I mean, definitely more expensive than Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner is probably a $15 figure. I think Rick Steiner by himself can probably go anywhere between $30 to $50 by himself. So this is really the one that you're really gonna pay up for. Scott Steiner you can find all day, but Rick Steiner seems to be a little bit more difficult to find. And maybe it's because people are holding on to Rick Steiner more often. Probably because he's more valuable. Maybe because people covet him more. I don't know. But and speaking of Scott Steiner, coming with the Steiner suplex. And I think a lot of the figures, like Mr. Perfect, comes with the Perfect Plex, and Scott Steiner with the Steiner suplex, right? So a lot of these characters, like Atom Bomb and Crush, Scott Steiner, Mr. Perfect, etc. I don't mind the figures with this pose. You look at like Chella Toys and like Bull Nakamo, how you pronounce your name. Like I'm not against these particular poses, but I'm not the biggest fan. And I've always talked about the arm positioning. And when we look at the loose figure, I'll explain a little bit more. But that's the Scott Steiner on purple card. So I've always said that if both arms were, like this, that'd be fine. Heck, if both arms were shot out like the left arm, okay. But the way that one arm shoots out further than the other, I don't know. It just looks funky. I'm not a big fan of that. But like I said, Scott Steiner by himself is generally a $15 to $25 figure. I'd like to think that this would be a $25 to $40 figure by himself, and maybe once upon a time that might have been the case. But on today's market, no. You're basically paying. It's like a Series 3 Mr. Perfect. You're basically getting it for around 15 bucks. Maybe that's because that's what I usually sell it for. Maybe that's why I'm thinking that's the market. But now I look at this figure and I look at it, I'm like, man, this is a minty figure. I'm like, no, I wouldn't sell this for 15. Like if I were reselling this particular figure, I'd probably ask for 30 bucks, maybe 25. Nah, I probably wouldn't sell it for 25. I'd probably ask for like a minimum of $30 on this. But like if this had markings on the bottom of the feet, if like the arms were weak, didn't have working action, if there was paint loss, yeah, I'd probably go for like $15 on this. If I put it on auction, I'd probably do like a starting bid like 15 bucks. So Scott Steiner, a lot of the actions with these particular figures. So it's a it's a very simple figure, man. Like when I look at Series 9 in general. So in the last video, I kind of did my little countdown of how I rate the series, and I still think that I might regret how low I rate Series 8. I put Series 8 at number 3, and I think that's one of the best series ever. But like I was going Series 3, Series 4, Series 8 as my top three, Series 7 at number 4, and then Series 6, 5, 2, 1. Well, I think that Series 9 is going to slip in between Series 7 and Series 6. So Series 9 will probably be the number 5 best series out of the top out of the first 9 series. So that bumps 6, 5, 2, 1 down. But I mean, as a bundle or individual figures, I mean they're somewhat expensive, but they're not like crazy expensive. You're not paying $30 plus, $50 plus for any of these figures, depending on condition. Doink, maybe depending on condition. $1 Million Man, definitely depending on condition. Jim Duggan, depending on if he has the accessory, that's going to make a huge difference. So when we get to those figures, obviously we'll bring that up a little bit more. Luckily, I didn't break the snap on this tag team belt for Scott Steiner, but I think I broke the snap on the belt for. That's why I talked about buying these little cheap belts. To all the people out there on eBay, Mercado, whoever who makes these belts, stop it. They're trash. And I know there are so many people out there who have like a legitimate business where they fabricate these type of belts. And I bought 100 million of them, but I don't know why I wasted all my money. I for my LJNs, for my Hasbros. Like I said, I bought like 100 million of these darn things, and they are the worst piece of crap on the planet. I despise them. To anybody that's thinking about buying these type of things for your figures, no. Save your money. I don't care if someone is giving these things away for. Stop it. 50 cents with free shipping for a single belt. Save your money. It's garbage. I mean, it's just Velcro, right? And the Velcro doesn't stick, and it's just poor computer printed. No, it's just not good, man. I will take the WCW belts off of the Galoop figures and put those on these figures any day because they actually serve a purpose, right? But just my opinion. Next figure up. Thinking about probably the most valuable figure in this series, depending on if you've got the accessory. And that is Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who comes with the Hacksaw Slam. So, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and this is one of those anomaly figures for me, right? So, let's backtrack a little bit with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Obviously, the last figures I had as a child were in Series 4 with British Bulldog, Bret Hart, and The Undertaker. So, nothing from Series 3, nothing from Series 5 onward, right? And I talked about Jim Duggan from Series 2, a very played with figure from childhood. And I've always said, Hacksaw Jim Duggan Series 2, probably one of the top 5, maybe top 10 worst Hasbro figures, with exception. Top 10 worst Hasbro. But it's not that it's a bad figure. It's only that it's a bad figure because it's a Hasbro. That's it. Everything from Hasbro is so freaking amazing that a perfect figure like a Series 2 Hasbro Jim Duggan is considered bad because everything else from Hasbro is spectacular. The Series 2 Hasbro Jim Duggan is a perfect go to playable action figure. Perfect stance, perfect playability, fighting pose, good grip. I mean, everything you're looking for in a figure, it's amazing. But it's a very simple figure. Blue trunks, blue knee pads, black boots. It's a very simple, plain figure, right? In Series 9, they give you all of these amazing graphics. So forget the bare chest, throw on this amazing, beautiful t shirt, fill in the knee pads, give them some additional graphics, and even do away with kind of like the 2x4, which is synonymous with even throwing an American flag. The 2x4, I think again that's Jim Duggan, so that's would have probably been preferable for some people, but the flag is still pretty awesome, right? So I think that Series 9 Jim Duggan technically should be a top 10 best Hasbro figure. Now, a few years ago when I did my top 10 list, I didn't put him on my top 10, but I really think he should be. So go figure that a Series 2, top 10 worst, Series 9, top 10 best. And it's like the same figure, right? 2x4 obviously is an original. You actually look at the 2x4, it actually says Hacksaw. And I think this one actually came from David Garland over on Etsy. So, Four Left 3D Creations. I've talked about a couple of his Hasbro accessories, like he does the arrogant spray bottle for Rick Martel, and he also does like this little hacksaw. So 2x4, and they're not expensive. They're like $4 a piece. So, and of course he does the LJN stands as well for the figures. So, and I'm pretty sure he does other things as well. But I just threw that 2x4 in there because Jim Duggan needs his 2x4. And, the action feature, which is one of my favorites. So Jim Duggan, he actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was, or was it Macho Man? I can't remember if it was Macho Man or Jim Duggan. I'm almost positive it was Jim Duggan who was like the first guy to ever knock Yokozuna off his feet. but I think it was like an untelevised match, or if it was televised, I'm trying to think because this darn was like so long ago. I think he knocked Yokozuna off his feet. Was like the first guy, and like maybe a week or so later, you had like the Royal Rumble, and I think Macho Man maybe was the person that knocked Yokozuna off his feet in the Royal Rumble, and Macho Man again. I could have the names wrong. Was credited with being the first guy to ever knock Yokozuna off his feet because it was a televised, pay-per-view event. But there was a scene where Yokozuna jumps off the ropes and squashes Jim Duggan, and I guess he cracked his sternum. I don't know if that was a real thing where he literally injured him in real life because there was this whole event where Jim Duggan was injured and out for months, and I remember that. I actually saw some like YouTube videos probably a year or so ago where he's like calling from home and talking about the events that happened and stuff. I'm like, light bulb. I remember watching it as a kid. I'm like, man, that was heartbreaking. But yeah, Jim Duggan. I gotta get with Ahmad. I know I've talked about not wanting LJN figures, for example, that have already been created, but Jason Nupp, New Age Revolution, he does his reviews on a weekly basis, talking about the LJN figures, his weekly review of each LJN figure, and he keeps talking about like Ted DiBiase and Honky Tonk Man, trying to get them in ring gear, and I'm like, no, I don't want to see figures that have already been created, and them with ring gear or them with clothing is awesome. It gives you that extra aesthetic. But it got me thinking the other day, and I'm like, maybe we could get a new Jim Duggan. Maybe we could get a new Ted DiBiase. Maybe throw in Matt Bourne, who we're going to see in this series. Maybe we could get the Rat Pack from Ahmad, from Latuni. I'm pretty sure maybe Net from Ram Treasures, but I'd like to see Latuni add to their roster. So I'm going to talk to him about that. That'd be pretty awesome. Jim Duggan, again, easily one of the greatest figures. Probably about a $20 figure, but depending on condition. And I mean, this one is mint. I mean, I could see this going for $30, $40 on auction. With accessory, I've gotten about $125 for Jim Duggan with accessory. But then again, Jim Duggan with accessory on Macari, I've gotten as little as $50. So I shot myself in the foot by selling it for that little. But I would say generally Jim Duggan with the original accessory, you're probably looking at north of three figures. If you're looking for that figure, especially if he's in really good condition. We got this character back in Series 6 on blue card. Well, guess what? We are getting him once more, 3 series later on purple card. And it is Tatanka. And Tatanka comes with Tomahawk Tackle. So you look at Series 9, just like in Series 8, they only showed you the Series 8 figures. Series 9 is like the same way. They only show you the 6 characters from Series 9. So I really like that aspect. It doesn't really confuse you to kind of look at, see all these other figures. It basically shows you what you need to pick up in that respective series. Also, kind of look at like Mattel Retros. You look at the back of the card, and it says, okay, these are the 4 figures, or if it's the first 2 series, the 6 figures I need for that respective series. So that really helps a lot. Now, like I said, I don't keep duplicates. So like white pants, Shawn Michaels, or black vest, Razor Ramon from Series 7. I don't keep those spares or duplicates in Series 10. I only keep them with Series 7 because that's when they were originally released, right? With Tatanka, originally released in Series 6. So I don't keep a second figure with Series 9. That's crazy. So I only keep the 5 figures for Series 9, and that's it. And Tatanka stays with Series 6. Perfectly fine figure. Loose figure. I've sold one for as little as $3. I still think Tatanka should be about a $10 figure, maybe as high as 15. I mean, if today's market tells me that something like a Kerry Von Erich Texas Tornado figure is going for $20-$30, then I don't know why a Tatanka figure can't go for as much or close to it. They're roughly the exact same figure, you know? And I mean, the windup isn't the greatest, but everything else on this figure is practically mint. So I would say a $10 to $15 figure. And like I said, around 94 ish, Tatanka, I like to use the word turncoat, traitorish, so treacherous. He betrayed his tag team partner, Lex Luger, joined forces with the $1 Million Man, joined the $1 Million Corporation. And so with the $1 Million Man getting a third release here in Series 9, it made sense to have another member of the $1 Million Corporation, especially one of the newest members of the corporation, being released here in Series 9 as well. But Tatanka, there is some customs I see on eBay where Tatanka's like dressed up in like white pants or yeah, like they have him like in white pants, like they paint his skin, or sometimes it's just like white trunks or something. I wouldn't mind that. Like if they gave him a repaint, they could have kept the whole figure exactly the same, but just a repaint. Make it a different figure, but just releasing the same figure on a different card. It's like the white Sean and the black Razor Ramon on blue card. Why? That wasn't necessary. Especially since you got purple Razor and black Sean on blue card in Series 10, which insane. But Tatanka, yeah, not a whole lot to say about. I don't really remember a whole lot about Tatanka. Like I could think I was a fan of Tatanka as a kid, but I don't have a lot of memories. Not really. So, and with this figure, like I said, I think that maybe Rick Steiner was probably the highlight of this collection, but I don't know. With the mint figure, I think this could be the most expensive figure of the collection, and it is the $1 Million Man, who comes with the $1 Million Mash. And I think I got this one from Canada, and it's not on here, but I think I had a COA or something that came with this, and it was actual paperwork, and I don't even remember what I did with that paperwork, but I'm sure I have it stashed away somewhere, probably in that little notebook over there or something. But it is signed by the $1 Million Man, and it seems like everything that I get from Ted DiBiase that I buy on eBay is signed by $1 Million Man, like Hasbro $1 Million Man, signed by him. I've got I've got his LJN figure MOC signed. I've got I think it's made by Jack Pacific. Like it's a champion $1 Million Man belt, and then it's got like a white suited $1 Million Man figure off to the side. That thing is signed by the $1 Million Man, and these are all eBay purchases, of course. I've never gone to any kind of convention or anything and had anything signed, but so it's like every time I purchase a $1 Million Man figure or something, it's always signed. So having this though, that was such an awesome pickup. Back in 2022, when I was buying all this stuff up, maybe even into 2023. I mean, obviously, I spent a couple years trying to acquire all this stuff. I didn't get this all done in 1 year or anything. $1 Million Man loose was going for around $60 to $75. Is that figure still hovering around the $70 mark today? You always know what I valued or what I thought were the more expensive figures because I always put them in these extra acrylic protector cases. Now, obviously, Million Dollar Man Series 9 did not come with a Series 1, or excuse me, well, yeah, both Series 1 and Series 2 came with the Million Dollar belt, but I put it on the Series 9 as well, just because. Today, I don't know if the figure is really that valuable, market value wise. You're probably looking at about a $30 to $40 figure by today's standards, based on condition, of course. So you gotta look at the boots, and you gotta look at, I think, the trunks. Like, I'm looking at this figure, and there's supposed to be like a money sign either on the boots or the trunks, but I'm not seeing that on either the boots or the trunks here. And yeah, see, when you look at the boots, there's a big old gold money sign on the boots, and there is no money sign on these boots whatsoever. Same thing on his trunks. There's a big old gold money sign on the trunks. I can't tell on the other side. I think it should be on all four sides, but I don't see it on all four. But I'm guessing the gold money sign is on all four sides. But take off this belt. Hmm. Interesting. Do I have another one? I'm wondering if this one has any. Yeah, see, now this one does have a little bit of a fade of the gold money sign on both sides, and a little bit on the trunks. Yeah, see, the gold money sign on the trunks here is pretty full. Yeah, so this one's actually a better figure than the one I keep in my main display. Why need to swap these out? You know what? I'm not selling this one anyway, so I don't think it really matters. And if I did sell this one, someone would have to offer me a ton of money. Like I said, these up here, these are all just spares, but because I kind of want to keep the spares with like the added accessories and stuff, that's what that is all about. See, most people, they like this figure because it's ring gear, Million Dollar Man, but I like the play pose, right? So like if I'm a person, I want to sit down, I want to wrestle with figures. Yeah, this is the figure that I'm going to go with for playability or purposes. But no, the green suit Million Dollar Man, that's the figure that I had from childhood. That's my favorite Million Dollar Man figure. It will always be my favorite Million Dollar Man figure. But in terms of value and I guess enjoyment for play purposes, yeah, this I get it. This is the one. This is the go-to piece. But I like figures that have clothing attachments, right? It's just more graphical details to the figures. When you look at when you look at Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Greg Valentine, when you look at these characters that are nothing that more than boots and trunks, it's such a simple and plain detail. It doesn't give you anything extra. That's them. That's how they wrestled. I got it. But when you're looking at it from a fan, for as you're looking at it as art, you want to see something more. You want to see something different, right? So that's why I when I look at like LJN Big Boss or Big Boss Man or Million Dollar Man, and when I look at Honky Tonk Man, right? I like those figures because they have clothing built on. It gives you that extra detail. So if you are a collector and you are looking for a mint or minty Million Dollar Man, You gotta look for the gold dollar sign on all four sides, both the trunks and the boots. And like I said, you're probably looking at $60 plus, $60 to $75. I think would be fair. If you want something like what I just showed you, where there's probably no dollar signs on anything, but it's like pretty filled in, you're probably going to be in the $30 to $40 range still. It's still an expensive figure, but it's still one of the best buys of the Hasbro's you're going to get. So the last figure we're going to look at, and this one is also signed, and it is coming with the big top clobber, Matt Osborne's Doink the Clown. So, like going back to the Rat Pack with Jim Duggan and Matt Osborne and even Ted DiBiase, like I said, man, I would love to see those three guys in LJN form. Yes, we've got Jim Duggan, LJN, kind of like, and you know what? Because you got LJN already, and I think if someone like Latuni or Ram Treasures created Jim Duggan, they would basically have to create the exact same look. You know, black trunks, white boots, white knee pads. Maybe that wouldn't work as well. I would like to see something different. But Matt Osborne and Ted DiBiase, maybe. That way, fans who want to see Ted DiBiase in ring gear get their wish, and you get a you get like a maniac Matt Osborne as well. So, but I'm also a fan of the '90s, right? I'm also a fan of the '90s Hasbro's. I want to see '90s Hasbro characters made into LJN. I'm still waiting for that awesome Nails LJN figure and an authentic Doink the Clown figure. I'm still waiting for that Kona Crush and Purple Crush LJN. So, you know, Mattel Retros, when they came out with their variation of Doink the Clown, and I don't think it was based on Matt Osborne's variant, I think it was based off of a- any of the other characters that portrayed him after Matt Bourne, aka Matt Osborne. But this figure, I like this particular variation. To me, the fuzziness of the hair makes the figure. When you look at the Mattel Retros, it's the hair, it's not authentic. It's just plastic hair built on. But the actual fuzziness, I mean, I like that. That means the world. So the creepiness of the face, the playability of the figure, even with the open hand. I mean, he still has the punching hand and everything. Openness of the arms, the aesthetics of the figure. It's just a really good looking figure, really fun figure. Problem is with this figure, it is so difficult to find a Doink the Clown with all fingers present. I don't know what it is about Doink the Clown that his fingers are always broken. You know how many Doinks I have purchased and had to resell because the darn fingers were always broken off? And you know, you buy them because you're buying bundles of figures, and maybe a seller's also selling Doink, and you're like, you know what? I'm already buying a ton of figures. Why not buy that as well? You know, it's maybe not cost a fortune. You know, let me throw that in. You buy it for $15. You're not planning on selling it for no bundle. You might bundle them together with other figures. And if you do sell it, you're probably selling it for like 17.50 or something. You know, you're not selling it for some like crazy amount of money. But and I think even this one, I think the darn, you could tell like the finger, the thumb looks like it's been super glued back on or something. Like the head is super loose and arm is loose. So it's supposed to have like the little uppercut punch type of deal. The big top clobber, as it's called. But Doink the Clown in general, if he does come minty, no paint loss, the arms are tight, action works, I could see Doink the Clown going for a good $30, $40 on auction. But most of the time, I would say that Doink is generally a $15 to $25 figure. Still a pricey figure, but I mean, not like crazy over the top expensive. When I talk crazy over the top expensive, I generally think of figures that are like, $40 plus. Mid tier, expensive, I like to think, $30 plus. Expensive, maybe $20. Affordable figures, I like to think of, $10 and under type of figures. But I think when WWF fired Matt Bourne, I think that was basically the end of his life. Um, he created this character, this persona that was so important to him, and having that taken away from him. Yes, he had a family, he had his daughter and everything, but I mean, that was his brainchild. Like I kind of look at this room and I look around. I'm like, let's say I come home one day and my house is burnt down, and everything I've worked hard to not even talking about just this collection, but like my house and everything I've worked to and accomplished over years being gone, taken away. It's like, yeah, I got my wife, I got I still have my marriage and everything, right? But that to think that everything you worked hard for in your life is gone. It's like I can understand where your mind goes when something like that happens. And I've had jobs that I've worked my butt off for, and then to lose your job, it sucks. That's a hard pill to swallow. And he was always a substance abuser. So having having that having that job taken away, uh, now what do you have to fall back on? More drugs and alcohol. So there was a really sad but beautiful documentary about Matt Osborne, and if anybody has the opportunity, I think it's on YouTube still. Well, it should be on YouTube. I don't know if it's on Netflix, but it's definitely on YouTube, and I would recommend watching it. It's like an hour long YouTube special, and when his daughter comes on at the end and starts talking about it, it's gut wrenching. But like I said, it's beautiful and it's well done, and I recommend it. Uh, yeah. So that is your six figures for Series 9. Not one of the greatest series ever, but is definitely one of my favorites. Definitely some of the more important figures of Series 9 or of the Hasbro line. So next week we are going to take a look at Series 10, and we're finally going to be able to break it down. Is it 10 figures in the series? Is it 8 figures in the series? How do you guys define Series 10? Do you define it by 8 loose figures? Do you define it by 10 mint on card figures? Like I said, I define it by both. But yeah, just two more series to go, guys. So a couple more weeks. But like I said, we are not going to be done in 2 weeks. We're going to be done in 4 weeks because I am going to still do prototypes and mailways, and then I'm going to follow that up with the unreleased Series 12 video, which we're going to take a look at Mattel Retros. We're going to take a look at Zombie Sailors, Heels and Faces. And we're also going to take a look at Hastel Toys, Grapples and Gimmicks. Those three lines, which put out figures from the unreleased Series 12 of Hasbro, characters that should have been released during that run. And in fact, Tatanka. Instead of getting Tatanka, here's a thought. Diesel. I have been harping on this forever, guys. Diesel has always been one of those characters that I have said that if Hasbro had continued the line, Diesel was always one of those characters that was going to be made. And yes, if Series 12 continued, Diesel was next in line. But why could Diesel not have been made in Series 9? Series 9 came out in 1994. I know Diesel was out in '94 because Diesel was running amok in the '94 Royal Rumble. In fact, 1994 Royal Rumble was actually one of the worst Royal Rumbles ever, one of the most boring Royal Rumbles ever because Diesel, man, Diesel and Bray Wyatt. Uh, who else, man? Like those guys that freaking Stone Cold Steve Austin, guys that come into the Royal Rumble and eliminate every single person that comes in for like 20 minutes straight. I hate that. That is so stupid. That is more boring than guys that come in for like half a second and get eliminated. But yeah, 94 Royal Rumble. The guy comes in, he eliminates like the first 15 guys that are in that Rumble. And then finally, at about 15 guys in, the ring starts filling up. And of course, that Rumble ends with the Luger and Bret Hart fiasco. But the first half of the Rumble was boring. The last half was, so and so, mediocre, however you want to describe it, but whatever. But Royal Rumbles were in January. So if these figures are being released throughout the year of 1994, Diesel is in January 1994. He was already part of WWF. Why is Diesel not part of that run? Now, I'm assuming that these figures were probably being mass produced in 1993, so he probably wasn't part of the roster then. Maybe. More than likely, but still, if that wasn't the case, I would have loved to have seen Diesel part of Series 9. I think WWF shot themselves in the foot with a lost opportunity right there. But yes, we will see Diesel in Series 12. Series 12. When we do that review. So, guys, that does close out today's video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment if you'd like. As always, you know how I'd like to respond to you guys and talk to you guys in the comment section. I will talk to you in the next video, and until then, goodbye, everybody.